The Dublin City Council and Representative de Saulnier, as well as Representative Zoe Loughran, we would like everyone to join them in opposing the opening of FCI Dublin as an ICE detention center.
On April 16th, faith leaders and activists gathered outside of a federal correctional institute, Dublin, a site of horrific abuse, neglect, and state-sanctioned violence, calling for the facility's permanent closure and to reject a plan to use it as an immigration detention center. That's from a statement released by Interfaith Movement and Human Integrity and the California Collaborative for Immigrant Justice. The statement further details that countless people incarcerated at FCI Dublin survived being sexually abused by the Bureau of Prison staff and faced inhumane conditions, retaliation, and medical neglect. And that now, ICE appears to be moving forward with converting FCI Dublin from a BOP facility to an ICE facility, despite congressional opposition, its abusive history, and dangerously dilapidated infrastructure.
Led an amazing campaign to organize to shut that prison down. We want to honor their dreams that this harm not be continued and perpetuated on other people and other communities. And so this is why we're here to prevent ICE from reopening Dublin as a detention facility.
Immigrants incarcerated at Dublin who are not citizens were specifically targeted by BOP staff who threatened to turn them over to immigration and customs enforcement or made false promises that in exchange for sex, they could help them stay in the United States. In 2023, The Real News spoke with organizer Erin Neff of the California Coalition for Women Prisoners about the lawsuit filed on behalf of incarcerated women who were experiencing abuse at the prison.
In the case of Dublin, just to give it an historical context, 30 years ago, there was a horrific incident of abuse upon many people, and there was a big case and a big settlement, and it is heartbreaking to see that 30 years later, the same thing is happening. And what it exposes is a culture of turning a blind eye to this abuse. There's cooperation, there's cover-up, it's very difficult to report, let alone confidentially report. So in recent times, what you're seeing are people being abused who are undocumented. So first of all, they're being targeted because the staff knows that they are people who are going to be deported. So there's an exposure there. They are threatened that if they say anything, they'll be deported. So these people are people who've been here maybe their entire lives, all of their families here. They're being retaliated against by putting in isolation. They are getting strip searched. They are, it goes on and on. They're being deprived of medical care, of mental health care.
At the recent vigil outside the gates of FCI Dublin, Reverend Victoria Rue read a statement by Anna, a survivor of FCI Dublin.
Like so many other immigrant women, I was sexually abused by an officer at FCI Dublin. After I was finally free from the hell of FCI Dublin, I was taken to another hell, an ICE detention center. The conditions at the detention center were terrible. I saw so much suffering. After months and months, I finally won my freedom. I am finally home with my children and trying to heal from the U.S. government, from what the U.S. government did to me. When I saw on the news that they wanted to reopen FCI Dublin for immigration detention, my heart fell. That prison is toxic and full of the pain of so many people. I pray that it is demolished, given back to the birds that live on the land there.
There was also testimony from Ulises Peña Lopez, who is currently incarcerated in ICE detention. According to the Santa Clara Rapid Response Team, early on February 21st, as Ulises was getting ready to leave his home, ICE agents showed up and forcibly arrested him, disregarding his rights and his health. Despite Ulises invoking his right to remain silent, to speak with a lawyer, and to not exit his vehicle without seeing a warrant, ICE officers responded with violence, smashing his car window with a baton and dragging him out of his vehicle. Without receiving proper medical care, Ulises was released into ICE custody and is currently being held at the Golden State Annex Detention Center in McFarland, California.
It fills me with strength, encouragement, joy, knowing that we are not alone, that you are standing in front of us, that you are our voice. And I know that, and I feel that you will never leave us. God bless all of you. Physically, I feel like half of my body is numb. My foot, my right hand, I'm losing vision in my right eye and my face without mobility. Psychologically, I feel like I'm having pauses. They detected my medical and psychological condition as serious, and they're giving me treatment. I can't sleep. When I call someone or whatever I need, I'm scared. I tremble. I start to sweat. My heart races because of everything they did to me, because of the way we're not supposed to possess medication in here. If you want 2 painkillers, you have to submit a request. If you have to put in the request, it usually takes 2 or 3 days to be approved.
This comes from the statement of Ulises' campaign and his supporters. They are calling and sending emails to Congress members Ro Khanna and Alex Padilla to demand ICE to release Ulises from the Golden State Annex ICE Detention Center in McFarland and provide access to medical care, treatment, and medications.
I want to tell you that despite what ICE did to me, when they beat me in front of my wife, in front of my daughter, and they took me to an alley, they continued to beat me. They performed CPR on me to revive me. After they called the ambulance, they still had the audacity to send the ambulance bills to my wife, not once, but twice, saying that she is responsible and has to pay for these bills for what they did to me.
The list of demands issued by the organizations Interfaith Movement and Human Integrity and California Collaborative for Immigrant Justice includes: honor and uplift survivors of FCI Dublin, demolish and permanently close the FCI Dublin, reject all forms of ICE detention in Dublin, end the ongoing terror and criminalization of immigrant communities, return and transform the land to meet community needs, and reaffirm that places of worship and religious observance should remain sensitive locations free from the reach of immigration enforcement.
Just to close, we know that if Dublin is reopened as an ICE detention center, if people are once again caged in those empty buildings across the street, abuse and neglect will continue. As Dublin survivors have said so many times, the horrors that happened at Dublin are not unique. Abuse is baked into our prison system. Everywhere there are cages, there is violence. In BOP, in ICE, in the Santa Rita jail across the street. What is unique about FCI Dublin is that survivors of this violence came together and they organized and they spoke out and they made themselves heard. Dublin survivors shut for years to shut that prison down, and they won, and it must stay closed forever.